What's going on? It's your boy Mixmaster B here live from the MMB Radio Studios for the MMB Radio Podcast, where no topic is too big or too small. We talk about them all. And on the phone lines, I want to welcome in tonight's guest, someone who I've been checking out for a little bit and kind of looking through her work. And she goes as an alternative, I guess, adult entertainer. We're going to get clarification on that because there's a lot of people that are very anti-labels, but then there's labels put out there. So we're going to get all the clarification on that tonight. So I want to welcome her in, Sonia Harcourt. Sonia, what's going on?
Not much. How you doing? Thanks for having me.
Thank you for taking some time to talk to us. And as I mentioned, an alternative, I guess, adult star, alternative porn star. Like, what do you go by?
Well, I mean, generally I go by adult performer, but it seems very vague for people outside the industry. So I end up they'll be like, so what does that mean? Like, stripper? And I hate it. I'm like, I guess I have to say porn star just because then they're like, oh, okay. But I'm like, I'm not a fucking porn star. Like, Angela White is a porn star. I'm like, D-list at best. But if that's what makes it easier for people to wrap their minds around, then that works.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, I mentioned, is a lot of people hate labels. You know, when people say things like, oh, you know, or are you this, are you that? People are like, I'm not really into labels. But then people have different meanings and understandings of labels. So people hate to be called, like you said, people are like, oh, I'm not a porn star. Like, for some people to call someone a porn star.
Yeah, I'm not like offended by it. I'm more like, oh my God, I do not think of myself that way. You know what I mean? I'm like, I am not trying to be lofty, like, yeah, I'm a star. Like, that's why I'm like, no, don't, I'm not offended by it. It's more just like, I promise I'm not that big-headed.
Yeah. Well, I said it's weird because for some people, when they hear porn star, they say, you know, that's kind of like, ew, it's degrading. Like, they rather be called an adult entertainer, which covers like every aspect, or like you said, an adult performer. So they're like, what falls under that umbrella? It's like, well, you know, I could do, you know, modeling, I could do webcamming, I could do, you know, video.
Exactly. Yeah. And I do all of the above. So I feel like it is a broader term. But, you know, if it's trying to, like, if it's making it easier for someone to kind of wrap their mind around it, I'm fine with it.
Yeah. And then I've had other people say that, you know, oh, a porn star. They're like, is there really any porn stars anymore? And then they start mentioning, like, you know,
like Pamela Anderson.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I feel like that that's why I don't like to say it either, too. Because I'm like, I don't really know if they quite exist anymore, at least not in the same way that they used to, you know?
Exactly. So it's, I guess I said, it has different meanings and, you know, to different people.
Yeah.
So kind of tell everybody how you got into being an adult performer.
Well, I had thought about it when I was younger. I've always been a very sexual person, but I was wildly insecure for most of my adult life. Like, I didn't even lose my virginity until I was 23 to my first boyfriend. So it just never kind of happened. And then I think I was approaching like 31 and I was kind of floundering with, what do I want to do with the rest of my life? Like, what am I going to be when I grow up? You know, that kind of shit. And
then that's when you saw the Indeed ad to be...
No, not quite. It wasn't quite so salacious, but no, a friend of mine works for an LGBTQ nonprofit, and we got drunk one night at a bar in New York hanging out. She's like, you know, there's this huge overlap with sex work, but that's not really something we're hyper focused on or have the resources for. She's like, you've always been so comfortable talking about sex. People feel comfortable talking to you about sex. Have you ever thought about and doing advocacy work? And I was like, oh, that's a great idea. So yeah, I opened an Etsy store that had like pro decrim and sex positive merchandise, and just got to know a lot of people in the industry, started making friends, and I actually got approached by an agency in the beginning, and I was like, oh, holy shit, the ship hasn't sailed. Like, I didn't ask. I didn't, you know, send out headshots or anything like that. They were just like, hey, we like your look. You ever thought about doing it yourself? And I was like, that ship hasn't sailed? Okay. I mean, I'm like, nobody gets into this industry at 31, but okay, I guess I can give it a try, and here I am.
Now, what is that feeling like? Because a lot of people do exactly what you just said. They're sending out headshots, or, you know, I mean, I guess we don't, you know, electronically, digitally now.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
yeah.
Back in the old school days, you know, you did have to go to, you know, Glamour Shots or something to get some stuff made.
Printed media,
Yeah, exactly. But there are talent out there who are finding different alternate routes of getting into the business, whether it be, sending photos to an agency or starting up an OnlyFans or doing webcamming and hoping that somebody, discovers them. Again, you were kind of cool with it. You're open about it, but it seems like from what I'm gathering, you weren't really like approaching the business. It wasn't something that was like on your radar.
Yeah. No, it just kind of happened. And I mean, it's different for everybody. It's, like I'm not as beholden to mainstream just because, especially being on the East Coast, there's not as much work out here. So, I do a lot of my own thing. But yeah, it just kind of fell into my lap, and I kind of felt like, okay, well, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. And, it was a little, I actually turned down the agency offer in the beginning because my husband, and we didn't meet in the industry. We were coming up on our 2-year wedding anniversary when this happened. So I think like maybe a month before this, we had just kind of broached the idea of opening up the marriage sexually, and as long as we're safe and blah, blah, blah. And then this happened, and I was like, well, I mean, we were kind of headed in that direction anyway, right? Kind of. But he was just worried about me being taken advantage of and potentially, manipulated into doing anything I didn't want to do. So he was like, I support you. I want to support you, but I would feel a lot more comfortable if you stayed independent. So that was why I turned down the agency offer.
And then being independent, that gives you the freedom of basically saying yes and no to things, or how does that work from being with an agency?
I mean, you still have some say in an agency, but, they're definitely going to push certain things. Like, there were so many agencies that were like, you're not going to do anal? Yeah, no, we won't represent you. I'm like, okay, that's fine. I'm not going to do it. Or, like, oh, you can't work with trans performers. Like, the straight side of the industry is kind of coming around on that, but still not 100%. So yeah, I had control. I was like, I'm not going to compromise my personal beliefs or values for an entertainment industry. And like it's going to be my career. This is going to be long term. This is what I do now. So I'm like, I'm not going to compromise anything to kind of get a flash in the pan. I'm like, I want this to be a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah. Now, you explained to everybody out there, you say you didn't meet your husband in the industry. So
no.
How did you guys meet? And, I mean, I guess when guys are approached, with the idea of doing something like this, I mean, for most guys that are listening right now, they're probably like, this would be heaven. To find that woman that you're going to marry that's, like, okay with having an open relationship. So kind of take us through, how you guys met and how he came to be okay with all this, because like I said, it's a give and take. Some people are pretty awesome with the idea, whereas others are just like, fuck no.
Or there are some guys who probably love the idea in theory, but then,
6 months down the line, it's just like,
you're like, your wife's coming home from work and it's like, how was your shoot? And it suddenly gets real.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was, so we actually met on OkCupid right before Tinder kind of blew up. So we met through there and we got married. I want to say within like a year and a half of meeting, we knew right away that this was it. And we were coming up on our 2-year anniversary for our wedding when porn kind of fell into my lap. And he had come into the marriage with a lot more sexual experience than I had. He's also bisexual. So he had like relationships with guys. He had some group sex. He had done all that. Whereas I was coming in like as a very intense, like I am legit bisexual and I had never been with a woman before. I had never had a threesome, none of that stuff. So, when we started, I was the one who initiated the like, hey, can we, maybe talk about fucking other people? And, it was a kind of just slow and steady, constantly checking in, checking boundaries, communicating. People ask all the time, like, how do you make this work? Communication. That's it. Just constantly communicating, checking in on boundaries. So, like, when I first started, he didn't even really want to know what I was up to. Whereas now, like, if he's on set and he's trying to get wood and keep a heart on, he'll, like, bring up my porn. I'm like, oh, that's so fucking hot. Yes. Awesome. So much progress. So yeah, it started slow. It started with like just girl, and then blowjobs, and then but it was all about just it was new for both of us. So it was checking in and seeing like, are you sure you're okay with this? Like, yeah, I didn't think I was going to be, but I'm fine. Like, I'm not, it was just constant communication. That's how, and I think I started in like September 2017. And by that January was my first AVN, and he came with, and he was like, this is really fun. I'm seeing, how much fun you're having and getting to kind of express that creative itch. We're both very creative people. So yeah, he's a part-time performer now too.
So kind of take me through the mindset of a lot of people. They hear, when women are bisexual, it seems like it's more accepting.
Yeah, because it plays into the masculine fantasy. That's why it's socially acceptable.
So when he came out and you guys were actually, dating and everything.
Oh yeah, he was listed on his profile as bisexual. Okay, so I was like, fuck, that's hot.
Okay, that's what I was gonna say. So where's your mindset with that? Because again, mentioning that such, male dominated, accepted or whatever, for two women but not two guys, to put that on an ad, like some women would be kind of like turned off by that, but you had the complete opposite feeling.
I was like, oh my God, he is so secure in his masculinity that he's not ashamed to admit this, that he's owning it, I was like, this is so hot.
Okay.
To me, yeah, that was like, oh my God, because toxic masculinity, and that's not masculinity, period. It is a type of masculinity. So boys out there screaming at their screens, don't be getting all butthurt on me now. Toxic masculinity is bad for everyone, including you, boys. That's like one of my biggest turnoffs. So knowing that about him and knowing that he was comfortable in himself and his masculinity was like, yeah, that was super hot for me.
Now it's crazy because you were just saying about how you said yourself were bisexual, but you hadn't been with, in a relationship or with women. How did you come to that? How did you come to that understanding within yourself that, hey, I'm bisexual, but you've never experienced anything?
I mean, it wasn't like I had made out with girls and stuff, and I had gotten to like third base with girls in high school. I knew I was bisexual by high school because the drama club we all got a little freaky.
I've heard stories about drama.
I'm telling you, man, that's where it's at. Like when guys make fun of guys, they're like, "You're joining the drama club? That's gay." I'm like, "No, man, that's where all the pussy is. That's where all the freaky girls are." So I knew in high school, but I was beyond stoked for my first ever, female encounter at my first AVN.
Okay, so kind of take us through that situation, because I mean, you've kind of just, I would say, kind of played around in high school, but where's the full Monty at? Where did the full, the whole thing go down?
It was fucking epic. Like I could not have lost my lady virginity in a better way. So. I don't know how much you've kind of stalked me, Instagram or whatever, but I'm a huge Batman geek too.
Okay. Not that much. I didn't know that part,
Oh, okay.
I try to refrain from going like that imaginary line, not trying going over it, because different states have different laws according to stalking. So, I try not to incriminate myself.
Deep dive on the Instagram or anything. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm a huge Batman dork, and so I had got friendly with these two performers on Twitter via, on my advocacy work. Shout out to Chrissy LeBlanc and Amelia Song. I fucking love you ladies. So we did a DC Sirens cosplay threesome. Chrissy LeBlanc was Poison Ivy, Amelia Song was Harley Quinn, and I was Catwoman. And we're fooling around and kissing. I'm like grabbing titties. I'm like, this is amazing. And Chrissy's, I believe, were they married at the time? Either way, her significant other is filming and my husband is filming. And I lay back and Amelia's Song goes to sit on my face. And I was like, oh my God, it's happening. It's happening. There's pussy coming. Oh my God. Oh my God. I sort of like the Hallelujah chorus came out. It was, oh my God, it was so fucking hot. And it's still one of
was
my
this
best
something that you
scenes.
Planned or?
Yeah. And like Amelia even wrote the script, and we had been planning it for like a couple months before I went out to Vegas.
So you had some time to kind of like amp yourself up and get hyped
Oh
for this,
yeah.
right?
Oh yeah, totally.
So what was the anxiety levels like knowing that, okay, 1 week away, 2 days away. Oh shit, this is going to happen. And then
I want to say it was like 70% excited and maybe like 30% anxious up until the night of the shoot. And then it was just like balls to the wall. Like, I need to eat some pussy now. Like, I had no doubts that like, oh my God, what if I'm really not? What if I don't? No, I knew I was like, I never doubted I was into women. So I was just so fucking ready.
Now, was there anything that you expected to happen and didn't, or vice versa, or?
No, I didn't really go in with any expectations. You know, I more went in with like, I hope I'm not bad at this, I guess. But other than that, no,
That's
I had no expectations.
That's like 99.999% guys' feelings on every sexual situation. You know, like, God, I hope I'm not bad at this.
Yeah. So other than that, no.
What did your friends and family think? I mean, obviously you said that you were kind of you didn't lose your virginity until you were older, but obviously you had fooled around with people in high school. Like, did people know that you were, you know, this kind of undercover freak, or is it just someone that just the drama club knew about? Or
yeah, no, I would say like my friends in high school, like they weren't shocked that I did it. I was always kind of a sexual person. They were probably just shocked that like you were so insecure. Like, holy shit, that's what they were shocked about. Not so much that I'm doing porn. The family, that was a tough one. I come from a small conservative town, and there are still some family members that I don't really speak to. It is what it is. But no, my friends weren't necessarily surprised by the sex. They were surprised that I had the confidence to do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I know you're a big advocate for, like I said, sex work and everything, and I feel like within the last couple years, a lot of discussion and focus has been put on people who are labeled sex workers, and sex workers having so many different realms and tiers of what is classified as a sex worker. How do you feel that it's gone so far up to this point, whereas we were, you know, just say maybe 5-10 years ago, how much it has changed and how many people's perspective has changed in that time?
It's a very interesting time to be in this industry, because on the one hand, you know, the pandemic and lockdown forced a lot of people to kind of like, oh shit, maybe I'll just do an OnlyFans. So it's kind of become more mainstream in that regard, which is good. And like, you know, celebrities are doing some of it. So it's some of the stigma is, you know, it's lifted a teeny bit. But on the flip side, like, politically, it is still a very hot button issue, and there are laws and things being drafted up right now that are super problematic. And, you know, like FOSTA SESTA passing was a huge blow to the community, and we're still suffering the consequences of it. Visa, MasterCard pulling out of Pornhub started a whole thing, and it's a very tumultuous time. Like, overall, people seem to be more okay with it, but then the extremists are getting even more extreme, if that makes sense.
Totally makes sense. It seems like it's kind of like the reaction to most of the topics that are going on in this nation and in this world right now. Whereas,
the extremists are getting more emboldened and aggressive, and there's a lot of conflating sex trafficking with consensual sex work, and that's where they tend to get people on both sides of the party line. You know, Democrats too, they're just, oh yeah, no, sex trafficking. And it's like, conflating the two is dangerous for everyone. Stop doing that.
And one of the things that I've pointed out to people about OnlyFans is, yeah, OnlyFans has this rep is that it's a porn or adult, website, but there are people on there that have OnlyFans accounts that are not doing anything at all of that. I have friends that are, fellow DJs that are having, they put a mix on there and they're like, hey, sign up to my OnlyFans, and for $5 you can download this mix. And it was a source of revenue for them, especially during a pandemic. And I just saw or heard someone the other day said that they have an OnlyFans and all they do on there is share like their cooking tips. Mm-hmm. And they do you can get recipes, and you download and buy recipes off them. But when they say that they have an OnlyFans, automatically everybody thinks, oh, you're getting naked while you're cooking, or you're, DJing, in your skimmies.
And I mean, and that's good and bad, because unfortunately, the more mainstream, this is what happens with most things that were originally made for porn or for sex work or for adult entertainment, is we build it up, and then once they become mainstream enough and they have revenue in other ways and they don't want to be associated with that anymore, OnlyFans doesn't want to be, the porn site anymore, then they start kicking us off, and it's already starting.
Okay, now being an advocate, what are some of the things that you have a strong stance on, and what are you doing to help promote, kind of the indifferences that are going on in the industry?
I mean, I don't want to say, I don't want to be like a voice for the industry. That is a lot of pressure, and that is a lot of times there's, you can never do enough and you can never do it right. So I just try and, educate people as best I can, where I can, where I feel like there's room for discussion. There are some people where it's like they're never going to change their mind on sex work. It's just not going to happen. And that's not worth my time or emotional energy to do so. But for people who, a lot of people who are like, wait, I didn't know, if they found out that you had, a Cash App or something, it technically violates the terms of service, so they would just shut you down and take your money. Yeah, that's a thing. And people are discriminated against, from banking institutions, from apartment renting. And, it's like, technically, what we're doing is perfectly legal, and we're still constantly being discriminated against by credit card companies, by financial institutions. So it's just one of those, to just, I guess, bring awareness to people, and that, we're not asking for much. We're just asking for, basic human dignity. We just want to be able to do our job and live our lives. And no one in this industry is pro trafficking or any of that bullshit. People trying to, oh, how do you sleep at night? No, you contribute to, I don't contribute to that. All my porn is ethically made, consensually made. And to my best effort behind a paywall. I have no control over thieves and pirates. So, we do our best, but I feel like we're just an easy scapegoat. So I try and make people question the validity of that and, take some personal responsibility, I guess.
It kind of reminds me of, if anybody's ever seen the movie Boogie Nights, where Don Cheadle's character is trying to get a loan to open up his own electronics store. And they come back and the bank tells him that we can't give you a loan. And he's like, why? I meet all the qualifications. And they're like, well, because you do, porn. And he's just like, but that's not, that's not.
You're like, that's not what I want to do anymore. And it was just my job. And that's a huge, huge hypocritical stance society takes on us, is they think that, we need to be rescued and we're being manipulated. But I don't think I have ever met anybody yet, personally, who has gotten out of porn, tried a different venture, and then didn't have to come back to it because they were like, ew, no, we don't want you, get out of here, you're dirty. The hypocrisy of, oh my God, go get a real job, and then we do, and they're like, ew, no, not this one, never mind. It's a constant back and forth. It's frustrating. But
and what would you say to people, because I know there are talents out there who have done just exactly as you said, started off in a business young, naive, not really fully educated on the business, may or may have not been taken advantage of. Not every situation is, a horror story. There are people that have been pretty successful, but then come to some kind of realization or have an epiphany where they want to do something different with their life.
Right. Or they just feel like, what, I'm done with this. This was a chapter in my life. Not like, oh, I was horribly taken advantage of or manipulated, just time to move on. And then they try and
and they get shot down.
Yeah.
So they
it's
revert
tough.
back to what they know.
And what they know that they can make money doing and make a living doing, And
and I was going to say, we hear so many stories too about people who, have mental, problems after that. People who become, depressed, suicidal, because, you're, in one hand, you're being told what you're doing is wrong. And as, like you said, they try to get a job doing something, outside of that business, and then they're being told that, you can't have this job. So it's like a circle that's never ending of shaming. So what advice would you give to people out there who may be listening, who may be, again, not mainstream, may not be as well known, but know that, like, hey, I've already done this. I have material out there. And as we all know, once it's on the internet, it's for life.
That's it. Yeah, that's
there's
what I always
the only
say to
thing
people.
that's forever is the internet.
Yes.
So, there's people out there that are struggling right now. They're like thinking, fuck, why did I do this now? I can't get out of this hole. What is some advice that you would give to some of these people?
If you're the advice I always gave beforehand would be like, make sure you are 1000% that this is what you want to do, because this is not, it can't just be, oh, I'm going to cam for a little while I'm struggling and then get back to it. Once you put that first image out there, you are branded with the scarlet letter, unfortunately, and it is what it is. And, I would suggest maybe look for something online. Like if there's other things, you maybe like an Etsy store or eBay, or, do a podcast, other things where it's like you can use what you've learned to your advantage. But yeah, trying to go back to a mainstream job, like working at a bank or something after this, it's going to haunt you forever. Unfortunately, there's no two ways about it. But there is help. Pineapple Support is an amazing organization that I've personally used myself that provides free or discounted mental health care for people in the industry. So if you are struggling, please go check them out. They're amazing. You are not alone. We have lost a lot of performers the past couple months to various things. So just please, like, Pineapple Support is an amazing resource. Check it out. That's what I would say to that. And
definitely, I can't agree more with that, as I've myself have known people who have gone through it, and people I know personally who have, either taken their lives or, have just become so overwhelmed with the shaming. And it's really upsetting because, again, there's so much stigma and so miseducation of what is actually going on in the business. And you said everything's consensual. There's things that are done the right way. And that's not to say that there's stuff out there that's not being done the right way. But the same could be said about any freaking job out there. There's shady shit that's going on, like you said, in banks, in corporate offices every day. I was infinitely, and again, like there's that whole, the Madonna horror complex, is sex work liberating or is it degrading? And for many people, it's neither or. It's somewhere in between. Like, it's a job. For me, it has been empowering. I was infinitely more degraded doing retail than I have been in this industry, but that doesn't mean that somebody else isn't going, this is the only job where people put that onus on us. Like, is it empowering or is it degrading? I'm like, are you asking, your waitress if her job is degrading? Because I guarantee you she'd say yes, but you're not asking her that question because it's not, it's the salaciousness. People want a taste of it or a part of it. That's actually why I won't answer the question if I'm ever asked in interviews to, like, what's your worst experience? I'm like, I'm not fucking answering that question because I'm not feeding into this weird fetishization of our pain that people get off on. It's like any job in a capitalist country. Like, it's a job. I have to put food on, I have to pay my bills, I have to pay off my student loans. I just happen to do a job that not everybody would want to do or would have the balls to do. And I happen to enjoy it, even if I didn't. Survival sex work is valid. It's, I'm of the, like, live and let live opinion. If I'm not doing anything to bother you, like, just stay out of my business, And I'm glad you're saying that because I've made mentions of this in previous episodes of the show where I say, the crazy thing is people are so quick to shame you for what you're doing, but behind closed doors, they're probably partaking in stuff as well. Absolutely. So the hypocrisy of that is just astounding. Yeah, it's like I almost feel like it's like a jealousy thing where they're jealous because you can openly do this and have the mindset where, no fucks given or whatever, however you want to, play it. You're comfortable in your own skin. Like you said about your husband being, bisexual, being comfortable being who he is. Whereas people will listening to this, and I can guarantee it, people will listen to this and will say, that's disgusting. How can you be married to a man who's, bisexual and is having sexual relationships with other men? And it's just like, okay, yeah, like to a certain degree, you may be turned off by that. But at what percentage of it is because you are jealous that someone is comfortable in their own skin? And I don't mean jealous, and I don't mean jealous in the sense that like you want to go have sex with another guy. I mean jealous in the sense that, again, somebody is not worried about what people think, not worried about being shamed, are living their life knowing that
on their own terms.
Yes, on their own terms, knowing that, hey, you may not agree with what I'm doing, but what I'm doing is not by law illegal. In religious aspects of it, it may be looked at as, sinful or not.
It's like, that's your religion. You don't need to be projecting that shit onto me. Like, if that's what works for you, congratulations. Great. That's not what works for me.
It's not law, So
yeah.
I think a lot of these people who shame sex workers, and I'm like, yeah, but at the end of the day, like, how much, if we went through your history, your browser history, how much of porn are you watching on your phone? What messages are you sending back and forth through your friends and your buddies?
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, you partake, it's an industry of supply and demand. We are supplying your demand, and yet you don't even want to treat us with just the most basic human dignity. It's like nobody wants to know the name of the person that they're jacking off to. It makes it too human or too real. I'm like, what does that say about you and your sex life? Are you not able to look at the person that you have sex with as a person? Or is it like that you are so personally hung up on sex being an emotional thing that you can't associate emotion or person with, like, that? If that's the case, that's on you. Sex for me can be very simply a physical thing. It does not have to be an emotional thing. It's an emotional thing when it's with my husband, but I'm able to, go tongue fuck a friend's ass and then have sandwiches with him afterwards, and it's not a big deal. I still look at him as a human being and someone I would die for. Like, it doesn't make them less of a person. But I feel like that's people's problem, is they project all their own shit onto us. And I'm like, okay, if you don't want to know my name while you're jacking off because it makes it feel dirty or wrong, that's a you thing. That's not a me thing,
So some of the stigma is, again, I think within the last couple of years, you start seeing a lot of these events for Pride Month where, you start seeing more things on the news where it's becoming something that's more in the forefront. And again, I'm not saying anybody has to agree or accept anything. What I'm saying is that people should be treated with, like you said, the human decency, basic human dignity.
Yeah. That's it. That's all you should treat anybody with at any point. And if they're not doing something you agree with, that's fine. It's not your lifestyle. Mind your own business.
It's like, you can always change the channel.
Exactly.
I mean? Like, that's always been my stance. When people say to me, well, how can you do this? And how can you be in support of this? And it's like, I choose to be in support of, the LGBTQ community, because for me, I look at it as like, I feel everybody should have the opportunity to express themselves however they feel fit, as long as it's not directly affecting me in my life. If I'm not paying like extra money, it's not, causing me any kind of like extra anxiety or anything. I don't care who you love. Everybody should have the opportunity to love who they want to love. If that means you want to get married to a fucking tree, guess what? Love that tree. Water that tree. Put little flowers around the tree if you want to decorate it. Put a little picket fence around it. Like, I don't give a shit if you want to get kinky and put a swing on the tree. You know what I mean? Like, whatever you want to do, it's like, it's your life. It's like, okay, now if I'm being told...
My thing is, like, as long as nobody's getting hurt and everyone's consenting...
Exactly.
Nope, there's no fucking issue.
Yeah. Am I paying extra tax money?
No. People try and throw in, like, the bullshit of, oh, well, if you say love is love, it's like, well, what about pedophiles? I'm like, no. Don't you dare try and attach pedophiles to the LGBTQ community. You cannot compare two consenting grown men having sex to someone taking advantage of a child. That is not the same thing. Consent is the key to all of this. And as long as consent is there, it ain't nobody's fucking business.
Yeah, like you said, love is love, but that, they right away they want to go to, pedophiles and everything. And I'm saying, yeah, well, what's the same thing as, it doesn't have to be someone that's underage. What if, we're talking about the terms of, sexual assault or rape? You can't say the same thing for that either and say, well, love is love, It's
yeah,
just,
no.
it's just,
consent is the key to love.
It's just so weird how it's like everybody has like their own made up rules to what is okay, what is not okay. When ultimately, like, I think everybody with any kind of, brain cells understands that, like, obviously if it's not consensual, it's not okay. It's never okay. No is no. So, yeah.
I think it's unfortunately we're still a very young, very puritanical country, and it's still like, the pearl clutching religious groups just, I wish this country was as disgusted by violence as it is by sex.
Mm-hmm.
That, like, if you were equally angry on both fronts, I could respect that. But, it's like you wake up in the morning, it's like, oh, another school shooting, thoughts and prayers. But there's a nipple on Instagram. Think of the children.
Exactly.
That's the bullshit that I can't tolerate. I'm like, no. Because that kind of shame fucks people up. Like, I was royally fucked up for a long time about sex because of shit that happened in my small town. And, like, I would have full-on 24-hour, like, panic attacks, hyperventilating, nausea, lightheadedness, dizziness, after, like, hooking up, like, because I didn't lose my virginity until 23, but I had, like, hooked up and fooled around a little bit before then, and it just fucked me up for so long. It takes a lot of undoing to just the shame, it's so unhealthy.
Now, what do you think is the biggest misconception of the adult business? Like, I always ask this question in interviews because I get so many different answers. But what do you think?
Mine is probably that we're dirty. That, again, here's more projection. People are going out to bars. They're hooking up with people from clubs. They're not wearing condoms. They're not asking their partner if they're tested. So they just assume that we must do the same thing on a whole different level. And I'm like, no. We get tested every 14 days. And we're paying like $155 minimum for the test. Plus draw fees. It's a whole thing. Our tests here in New York, for me, it's $240, something like that, between shipping and the draw fees and all this stuff. And we test for everything but herpes because you can't positively test for herpes unless someone has an outbreak. Like, you could go your whole life having it and never know you had it. So we test for everything. And most people, responsible performers, do not fuck around with that shit. So that's probably my biggest misconception. It's like, oh God, they're probably full of STDs. And it's like, no, not at all. I have never had a, quote, bad test once in my 3 years.
Now, and it's funny you say that because I always laugh when people, say, oh, they're dirty or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, but you realize these people, they have to be tested.
This is our livelihood. Yeah. Like, it would be like a football player going out and playing a game without a helmet. That's just fucking stupid. Me going out and, like, just fucking random people and not getting and that's, everybody's rules are different. Like, some girls also escort on the side, and I have no beef with that as long as you're safe, and my husband and I, our rule is we don't fuck for the sake of fucking unless, specifically discussed beforehand because the person got tested or whatever. But we really only work with other tested performers. So, yes, there's still a risk, but it is a mitigated risk. And I mean, in all honesty, I feel, safer with the people I work with than the people I might have hooked up with before porn.
Mm-hmm. So, that's what I say. The people that you meet at the bar or the club, and I mean, shit, you don't even know if people got COVID right now, let alone any kind of STD.
Exactly. So that's a big one.
And it's crazy how, like, people are so, like, anti-mask. When, not to make this a political rant, because I'm not saying, this or that, when it comes to the mask mandates and, whether people should wear masks or not. But just think about it. If people are so hesitant to wear a mask, because for whatever reasons, they
feel like it's infringing.
Yeah, or it's not cool.
how much you want to bet they're wearing a condom every time they're fucking?
Exactly.
I'm
exactly.
like, that's a red fucking flag if I ever saw one.
Yeah, like if you're so like against, I'm stealing your rights or your privileges or whatever you want to word it for wearing a mask or not wearing a mask, like, how am I supposed to believe that you have a clean test or that, again, you're even practicing safe sex,
And that's what's great about, like, as much as, the ones that we pay for, unfortunately, like, performers are trying to get together and find a different way to do testing because the labs that we use right now, it's a profit business, unfortunately, and it is what it is. We're trying to get around that. But you can fake a doctor's test. Like, you can screenshot a doctor's test. If there's somebody that I'm working with for the first time, they need to send me the QR code that links to their talent testing profile. And I can see if they did, in fact, take that test and when they are cleared and when it expires. So, you go into it, it certainly makes the sex a lot better, in my opinion, too, knowing that, like, what's up? We're all responsible, clean adults, and we're going to have some consensual fun.
Yeah, and it's crazy that you say that because we just had a guest on in a previous episode who mentioned the same thing about the QR code thing, and it was something that was, totally new to me. I was unaware that they had this program with the QR code. I mean, it makes sense with everything else that's, digitalized and everything, and it's so much easier and trustworthy knowing that someone comes back, with a clean test rather than, like you said, the Photoshop wizards out there that are just, making stuff up.
Oh, and people do that. Like, people Photoshop. That's why actually a lot of, if you're new to the industry and you're listening to this, which might be unlikely, but if you are, do not post screenshots of your fresh test on your Twitter or Instagram, because that's how people use it to Photoshop shit. And, somebody who doesn't realize that you can double check in the system or check the QR code will just take it at face value, and then they just put their own picture over yours, And
the same thing has been said about people that post pictures that they're the vaccination cards,
Yes,
it's like,
yes.
I'm fully vaccinated. Again, that's my own personal, belief and understanding of science and acceptance of it. But I didn't post my picture of my card out there. I'm like, no, because that's like posting your driver's license, like posting your social security card. Like, why would you do that,
I understand why sometimes new performers do it because they're excited and they're like, look, I got a clean test. And it's like, you don't need to post it to prove it. Just, show up to work, ready to work. And again, this isn't to say that it's like, of course, there's still risk. Somebody can get a test and then, 2 days later go fuck a random person in a bar, but it's a mitigated risk, and then that's obviously the personal onus is on the performer too, to then do their own research. Like, there are girls that I have on my no list because I've seen their Twitter and I'm like, I've seen you at parties.
You just have some suspect tweets and photos
like you are not getting anywhere near this pussy. You've got like a super strain of gonorrhea at this point. Like, I'm not like antibiotic resistant shit, So it's a lot of personal responsibility too, which is why I'm like, it's not always the best industry to get into young. There's still so much to learn, but again, personal choice. So
now something that is a serious question that I want to ask, and you can, refute if you do not want to answer. But it's something that I've been noticing a lot lately, looking through social medias. There is so much divide in this country right now on so many issues, but political issues, and I see a lot of talent who are taking stances for one side or the other. How much do you see first in the business of that divide, and what is
a lot?
And what is your feelings towards that? Because a lot of people who alienate themselves from different fans, and from my understanding and my, beliefs of it and everything, is like, the adult industry is almost like an escape. It's just like, when you have people who are, taking something that you were able to watch and enjoy and kind of, be distracted from what's going on, and now you're making a real life issue. Is that good or bad for the business?
I think I understand where you're coming from, and as a fan, why that could be. It's like, I just came here to see titties. But I think that's also, like, I personally use my Twitter to discuss mental health a lot, because that's also stigmatized. And I think the people, and again, it's your Twitter. You can do whatever you want. Some people are like, oh, this is a business. You don't need to talk about your personal shit. Or some people have the privilege of being a big name and they can post pro-Trump shit all they want and not have any repercussions to their career. But for me, and I would imagine you get a different answer from everyone, because it is different from everyone. Some people really do, like, I have a couple friends that I know their political affiliations, but you would never know from seeing their Twitter, because they're like, this is my business profile, this is my brand. I personally, because I'm in a position of privilege where I'm not necessarily financially beholden to studios or to, like, I know I would make more money if I didn't make it obvious that I was married. That's just a given. Like, once you break the illusion of, oh, maybe I could fuck her someday kind of thing, you instantly lose fans. Or if I were to further, fetishize, like, working with black men, that's one of the biggest requests I get all the time, because I'm so pale and they want, but I'm in a place where I'm lucky in that my husband holds down the financial fort. So I am able to take more of a moral, like, I can be the voice where other people are like, I wish I could do that, but I have to feed my kids, so, like, I'm putting the certain hashtag that might be considered offensive to some because I need to make the money, or it's like, yeah, I'm married, but I don't tweet about it because I want to give the illusion. So I'm in a place of privilege where I'm like, I want to humanize us as much as possible. So sorry, that was like a long-winded.
No, I mean, I totally get it. And just for people to understand my stance on it, I mean, the same comparison can be made to pro athletes. There's people, when pro athletes like LeBron James was speaking out on different things, there were,
because once you get to that point, you do kind of have, not like necessarily an obligation, but if you are in a place of privilege and there's something that exactly, and something means something to you and you can be a voice for other people who can't, why wouldn't you be? So yeah, that's just my thing, is I do get personal on my Twitter often, and I wonder, I'm sure that's lost me fans. I'm sure it has, people who are like, ew, you work with gay guys, whatever. But I'm just, especially talking about mental health too, I'm like, it's not all just rainbows and butterflies every day. Like, yeah, I love my job, but there are some days where, the hate and the shame and the being treated as lesser than human is really hard. And I feel like it needs to be talked about. So if I can do that, if that's not your thing as a fan, then that's fine. But I think the only making it like porn and pussies and titties and all that for so long contributed to the dehumanization. You didn't see the person behind it. Now, if that makes sense.
No, it totally makes sense. At least I was mentioning about an example of like LeBron James, and people are saying, Fox News and some other companies are saying, well, you should just shut up and dribble. And I was always kind of like with the stance.
I hate that.
Well, I was always with the stance is that, like, no, but I mean, if you have
He's
a platform,
not just a basketball player. He's
exactly.
a human being.
Exactly.
He's a human being first. Like that, people wanting to put everybody down to, like, celebrities, Hollywood actors voicing their political, well, you don't need to, you're just go make movies. It's like, they're a voter. They're a tax-paying citizen. They're allowed to have an opinion about things. We're all fucking people first. I'm sorry if you don't want to hear him, if like your personal opinion is now butthurt because you don't agree with him. It doesn't make him any less of a talented athlete.
Well,
you don't have to support him as a human. You can still watch his games, but I don't know.
Well, see, my feeling on that is that, again, people have a platform, and if you have a certain reach and you have, 100 million Twitter followers or Instagram followers, and you have a reach like that, why would you want somebody like that to not have a say?
Exactly.
If those people are not having a say, then who is having the say? The people with like 10 followers?
They're not, like, if you can actually feel like maybe there's something that you want to change in this world to make it better, and you actually have the ability to maybe make it happen, why the fuck wouldn't you?
Again, if you have 10 followers on Twitter and you're feeling like, oh, I really want to change this, but you're like, who the hell is listening to me? You know what I mean? You wish you were in a position where you had, 10 million, 100 million followers, that you could have that, extensive reach.
Exactly.
So, I mean, it's kind of weird. It's kind of like, it's almost like a form of censorship. They don't want people to say anything, but at the same time, those same people will want to have an opinion or say, So
it happens all the time in this industry too, where people will get really angry if say on my OnlyFans one day I post a foot fetish video and there's a guy like, ew, I didn't pay to see this shit. And I'm like, you think you're the only person subscribing to my content? You think your thing is the only thing that counts? You think
Mm-hmm.
your thing is the only thing people are paying for? Like, no, if it's not your thing, scroll along. I'll be posting a solo video tomorrow. Like,
Yeah.
you know, it's so, oh, people are just selfish. Stop being selfish, y'all. Calm. If it's not for you, just, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all.
Well, you know, it's funny because I've attended Exoticas in the past, and people have said, like, they'll go over to, like, you know, the BBW section or, you know, the fetish section, and they're like, how degrading is that you want to be tied up and whipped? And it's like, okay, but the same people that are into that and are liking that want to know why, like, who could look at, you know, big fake titties and blonde hair and, you know,
and find that attractive.
You know, so like there's different strokes for different folks, you know, so
Exactly.
I totally agree with you. Don't make it all about you, you know.
But what are you gonna do when you know, you're not young and pretty or whatever anymore? I'll be like, I'm a gilf, honey. Just because it's not your market doesn't mean it's not somebody's.
Yeah, like you know, when you get older, all those tattoos you had are all gonna look wrinkly, and it's just like.
I'm like, I don't give a shit. I'm gonna moisturize the hell out of them and do my best to take care of them.
And you know, the way I combat that is say, well, you do realize that, you know, all that hair gel you put in your hair, you know, and all that stuff. Eventually, someday, your hair's gonna fall out. You know, like it just, I don't know.
It's like that tanning booth is gonna come back soon and bite you in the ass, sweetheart. Yeah.
When you have a rare form of skin cancer because you tanned every day.
Or when they're like, what are you going to do? I'm like, when I'm 60, I'm still going to be making money on videos I made when I was 30. Okay? Passive income is fucking sweet. So don't even.
You know, so explain to people what is the most rewarding part about being in the business. Like, what is something you just enjoy the most about being in the adult business?
Ooh. I mean, definitely, I was a theater major, so definitely getting to perform kind of scratches that itch. I really enjoy doing like cosplay and improvising in scenes. I really enjoy acting. But and again, this is me personally, this doesn't reflect the industry in general. I really enjoy kind of helping people discover a part of their sexuality that maybe they weren't comfortable with before and get comfortable with it. Or, you know, help people increase their confidence. On cam, I have quite a few of those, like people who were insanely shy before, like they would take me exclusive and they wouldn't show their face, they wouldn't really talk, they would just be stroking their dick, and then like a month into it, they're like, this has been so much fun, I feel really comfortable around you, and then they start talking more, and you can just tell they're like feeling more confident. I don't know, that feels nice. I really enjoy that. I really enjoy maybe it's because I had so much of my own shame to undo and to deal with coming into it that I really like helping people work through their own.
Mm-hmm. Now, what are some of your favorite types of scenes to shoot? I know you said you love doing the cosplay. Yeah. Do you feel like you have not an advantage, I don't know how to word that, but like because you have a drama background as opposed to somebody who's just kind of like, you know, by the seat of their pants just shooting content?
Oh, that definitely plays a huge part. No, absolutely. Like, especially for just kind of, if somebody just writes a loose script, you know, there are some performers who have a really hard time with that. They're like, just, what's the line you want me to say? Just tell me what the line, whereas I can kind of just, you know, banter and get the general idea of it. So yeah, I really do enjoy improving, especially with other people who enjoy it too. But if do I have a favorite? I really love blowjobs. It's like one of my favorite things in the world to do. Okay. So yeah, blowjobs are up there. And then I do enjoy BDSM scenes a lot. They're very cathartic in the right setting with the right people.
Now, you did mention, like, you're never going to talk about, like, your worst experience, and I won't ask that question, but I want to know, is there limitations to stuff that you will not do? Is there things that you've been approached to do and that you're just, like, not really into it?
Oh, yeah, totally.
I mean, like, what are some
a big one.
Okay.
You know, it's a huge thing in the industry right now. It's a huge, it's not even a niche anymore. It's like, you know, it's almost a new standard. And I'm just like, especially because I got a big butt, so people ask all the time, and I'm just like, it's just not my cup of tea, you know. I don't dislike it, but I don't particularly like it. It's also a lot of fucking work.
I was gonna say,
what
is the reason? Is it just because of the prep work of it?
The prep is my least favorite part. So like I might do the occasional anal video with my husband for like my OnlyFans, but I'm not in a place in my life right now where I want to be able to do it to say professionally, yes, I'll do it, because it is just so much prep, and the idea of showing up on set, having not eaten for like 10 hours, not being able to have coffee. I'm like, so I'm just going to be a hangry bitch. I don't think this is going to be a good day for anybody. So yeah, that's one. I also, I have no desire to do like, I'm very, very tight. So I like double vag is something I get asked a lot. And I'm like, no, I don't think that's ever going to happen. Sorry if that's anybody's like pipe dream out there. That's not going to happen.
Anything that doesn't feel comfortable or is just extra pain is not,
it's not worth it. Like, I don't want to destroy my body for this industry unless it's like something I'm really passionate about,
or getting really good pay for,
Yeah.
Money can convince you to do things,
Sometimes, but like double vag, I'm like, I don't, unless they're both like boyfriend dicks. No.
Now, is there anything that you do in your personal life that you kind of keep, just for personal life? So a lot of people tell me when they're in a business, it's tough because there's, stuff that their husbands, like you say, come home and they're like, I'm not really in the mood. I don't want to do anything because I just been on set for, 15 hours. What is something that you keep between you and your husband that is kind of sacred to you guys, if anything?
It used to be cream pies, but I got recently snapped. So he was like, oh yeah, now that I don't really mind you, doing that. I haven't done it really yet with anybody else, but that was one for a little while. Just we ended up deciding that we just, we're not going to record every single time we fuck. There's going to be some times where it's just for us, and just not having a camera there. It's amazing what a difference that can make just mentally. So yeah, there's not anything in particular. I'm trying to think, like not like probably anal right now. Like he's really going to be the only one, but not necessarily because we were like, okay, that's for us. More so just like we need to make time for us. That's something we do. Like I know there are couples out there who literally just have a camera in their room and every time they fuck, they're like, you're missing out on content. I'm like, I don't care.
Alexa, start recording.
Exactly. I'm like, no, some of this has to just be for us.
Yeah. Now, is there, for people out there that are couples like that who are, again, looking for something that keeps it, exclusive, like, is it okay with you and your husband that you don't really have a, per se exclusive? I know you mentioned, like anal and, but like, how do you keep the romance in a relationship when you pretty much, there's nothing exclusive?
Well, that is what's exclusive for us is the romance. Because we're not polyamorous. We're not like having emotional relationships with other people. We just fuck other people. So that the romance of it, like I don't quote, make love to anyone but my husband. I don't have sex like that with anyone but my husband, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Totally.
So yeah, the romance is definitely what is our thing. Like we don't get emotionally involved with other people. And people wonder too, like, does it kill your sex drive? And actually, my friend Jay Taylor, she's the same way where it's like, no, I get hornier when I've been like in LA for a week and I come home because I've had fun sex, but I haven't necessarily had satisfying sex. And that's when I come home, that's what I crave with my husband. Does that make sense?
Totally makes sense. So that's why I wanted a little clarification on that, because there are people out there who are, couples who may be new to the business and are like, I got to find something that's just exclusive because I feel like if I don't have something exclusive, I'm going to lose my partner.
I mean, that's a communication thing. That's something you have to establish between each other. Like for a while it was, kissing or, cream pies. But again, as the relationship has evolved, that has evolved too. But it's always, right now our thing is always just the emotional, romantic part of it.
Now, for people who want to know what do you do when you're not shooting content? Like, it's weird because there's so many people out there that think that, like, this is 24/7, 365. Like, again, humanizing people. They don't think that you have like a human life that, you know,
yeah,
you
no,
do.
they expect that like, can you take a Skype call right now? And I'm like, it's 7:35 on a Tuesday. What do you think? I'm just like sitting around in my lingerie with a full head of hair and makeup done all day every that is what you think, isn't it? Yeah. No, you know, it's like that's not how. And for some people it is. For some people it's, you know, if I was single, I would probably work, you know, more. I'd be on the clock more, sure, but you know, there's husband time, there's couple time. But when I'm not necessarily shooting, there's still this is not just like, you know, laying on your back and getting laid. We're essentially, you know, independent contractors. There's social media management. There's so many different websites that you have to manage. It's not just like OnlyFans. It's Sex Panther. It's Night Flirt. It's Just for Fans. It's AVN Stars. It's Feet Finder. You know, there's like, and then there's how many clip sites. There's ManyViz, AP Clips, Clips for Sale, I Want Clips, you know. So it's actually a lot of computer work. I don't think people realize. And video editing, luckily my husband does a lot of that for me because I'm wildly intimidated by Adobe Premiere. But you know, it's a lot of computer and administrative work.
So do you get time to do what, you know, most people would consider like quote unquote normal stuff? Like if it's, you know, do gardening, read a book, you know.
Oh yeah, I always make time for that stuff.
What are some of the things you do that, you know, doesn't consist of the business?
That's been tricky for me. That's something I've had a really hard time with during COVID, was kind of separating Sonia and my civilian self, if you will. Because a lot of things that I do for fun kind of translate into, okay, well, I need to take a picture of this and post it on Instagram. You know, like my cosplaying, or even playing the flute, or, you know, crafting, things like that. That's what I like to do in my downtime. But I try and keep, you know, I'm not going to record every single session working on my Lady Riddler cosplay. Like I'll post, you know, update pictures, progress pictures, things like that. But I do try and separate and do things that are just for, you know, personal me and not work me.
Very awesome. So let everybody know where they can find you at online, because again, online presence is a huge thing. Obviously, you just rattled off like 10 different platforms. Some of them people have heard of. Some of them people are like, what the fuck is that? I can't keep up with everything. Like people
That's
say
why
to
I'm
me,
saying people think this job is easy. I'm like, no, the amount of different avenues I have to have my toe dipped in to just make a living is wild. Because whenever people are like, oh, it's so easy, you make so much. I'm like, do you watch porn? They're like, yeah, of course I do. And I'll be like, do you pay for it? And they get quiet. I'm like, yeah, that's it's not the easy job you think it is.
I mean, I have a hard enough time between Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, you know, and two of them are, you know, in bed together. So, you know, like I don't do Snapchat, I don't do TikTok. Like I just can't. Like that's like you literally
so much.
Social media could be a full-time job,
and it is. It absolutely is. Yep.
But
especially in this industry.
But we need to know where we can stalk you at. You know.
Everything filters through Twitter because that is like the last safe haven for us at the moment. Twitter is like the only place you can post the dirty stuff. So go to my Twitter. It's Twitter/Sonia Harcourt XX, because I was one character too many for the 15 character limit. So I couldn't get the XXX. But yeah, everything filters through Twitter pretty much. I'm on Instagram, Sonia Harcourt. Onlyfans.com/Sonia Harcourt XXX, but you know, everything filters through Twitter pretty much.
So there you have it. Is there anything else you want the fans to know before we let you get out of here?
I feel like I went on quite a couple tangents with you today. So I think
that was good.
Covered quite a bit.
And I love that you were so like, you know, it's funny because before we started this podcast, we were talking about how, you know, you get some guests that are just very insightful and very, you know, thorough with their answers, and it's just very, you know, refreshing to hear because, like you said, it humanizes people and it helps.
That's the goal.
And some of the stigma.
I feel like that's my goal. Yeah.
And then you have other people, and we won't mention names, but I've had other people that are on the podcast that just kind of like fuel that stigma. You know, people are listening to it and are going, you know, as much as it may be a fun podcast, you know, people are like, see, I told you that she's just a whore, you know, like, or something like that, you know, something
And it's different
derogative.
for everybody. Yeah, some people like, this is my business, and they play into the quote character of it, and they probably make, you know, really good money doing it, and that everybody has their own way of doing it. My personal goal is to just humanize us more. So.
Well, we appreciate you taking some time to talk to us, and you know, it's been very insightful, and I enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, and I can't wait to see, you know, more content, follow you along on Twitter, see, you know, if you'll be doing any appearances anywhere. And,
oh, hell yeah.
You know, it's great that we're starting to open up the country, you know, and the nation a little bit more.
Yeah.
You know, still everybody out there, be cautious, you know, still take all the measures needed to protect yourself and others.
I love my social anxiety loves masks. So that's all I'm saying. I'm going to keep wearing it just because I'm like the anonymity. I love it.
I'll tell you, the first couple days that it, you know, the thing rolled out, I was like, I fucking hate this thing. It's just now glasses fog up and I can't, you know, breathe. It's all sweaty and, you know, but I've gotten used to them now, you know, and it's, you know, it's just like, you know, it's like I say, you can kind of use that aspect to like condoms too, you know. You may not be able to keep an erection at first when you have them. They may, you know, not every size
like anything,
fit you.
You get used to it,
yeah,
like anything else.
Yeah, so practice masks, practice safe sex, practice safety everywhere because we want you guys to be alive and happy and enjoying life and listening to the podcast and, you know, following Sonia online, you know, and doing everything that is, you know, joyful in the world.
Indeed.
So, but, yeah, we thank you again, and we can't wait to see and hear more big things from you.
Awesome. Thanks again for having me. Hey there, this is Sonia Harcourt, and you are listening to Mixmaster B on MMB Radio.